This week on The Motor Show, how to save cash and perform a basic service yourself. How a used Rolls or Bentley could be within your reach. And we check out the flamboyant cars at the Beverly Hills show. But first, we found a used Lotus Elise that seemed a bargain. And we sent Will Hoy to check out its thrills at the Oulton Park track.
Rocking in the early 1970s, then you remember Black Sabbath, flared trousers, and of course the Lotus 7, a car that stood for handling and simplicity itself. Since then, Lotus have drifted towards building supercars like the Esprit, but in the Elise, it heralds a return to everything that Lotus stood for. In fact, it's a laugh, it's light, it's affordable, and it's fun. At first glance, the curvy and swoopy lines don't do a lot for me, but I do rather like this cute rear end. If it's a bit fussy and frantic on the outside, then on the inside it's the absolute opposite. In fact, it's minimalist. There's a steering wheel, 3 pedals, a gear shift, a handbrake, a couple of instruments and a Stone Age heater, and a hood if you want it. In fact, the bare essentials. Climb into the bucket seats and you'll soon find there's no wussy padding here, so you feel every twitch and movement of the chassis through that very underrated part of the driver's anatomy, your backside. In fact, it's only 160mm off the ground. So far, it's affordable, but perhaps a little uninspiring. So where's the rest of the laugh factor? Start it up, put it in gear, slip the clutch, and I can assure you that within 100 yards you're going to be grinning from ear to ear. In fact, Lotus have rewritten the handling rulebook. This car is the perfect interaction between man, machine and the road. The steering has an astonishing, almost intimate feel. It's a combination of precision and feedback that is missing from most modern cars with their jelly-like suspension, which increasingly isolates the driver from the road. Apart from the stunning acceleration, the brakes on this car could stop the QE2. They're a Lotus innovation, using high-tech alloy discs. They do a lot of kart racing around this circuit, which I think is entirely appropriate. If you've ever driven a kart, you'll know how positive and responsive the handling is. Well, I think the Elise is even better. Like a dog, an Elise may be a man's best friend, but it can bite, no more so than in the wet or if you push it too hard. You definitely need quick reactions, or it could end up like this. So how do Lotus do it? The secret is this mid-engine chassis using epoxy-bonded aluminium, a first in the motor industry. See the height of this aluminium sill. I wouldn't like to drive this in a kilt. The result is an incredibly light and strong car. In fact, it's so light it weighs in at a measly 675 kilograms. Compare that to a 4-door saloon of, say, 1,500 kilograms. So it has the strength of a sumo wrestler and the suppleness and lightness of a geisha girl, covered in a fiberglass body and mated to an absolutely bog-standard 1.8-litre, 118 brake horsepower Rover K-Series engine, giving a 0 to 60 time of just under 6 seconds. Okay, it's got quirky looks, it doesn't ooze pleasure, and it's not very good for Scotsmen in kilts. It's not a practical, family-orientated vehicle, but it will bring back those great sensations of driving that you thought you'd lost forever. So if you're bored with traffic jams and your average car, then put the laugh factor back in your life and get an Elise, if you can.
We all know what a nuisance it can be when your car breaks down, to say nothing of the hole it can burn in your pocket. That's why it's very important to keep the engine well serviced. And that can work out expensive with labour charges now anything from £30 an hour. So can you do it yourself? And is it worth it? At the Royal Oldham Hospital, the staff are very good at looking after people, but can they turn their skills to cars? I've got 3 volunteers and their motors, and they're going to attempt a very basic service. Have you ever done anything with cars before? No. Nothing at all? Never. You promise? Yeah. Do you fancy giving it a go today? Yeah. So, have we set them a mission impossible? Well, if they can do it, so can you. Although we have given them a bit of a head start. We're going to provide a fully equipped garage, and they've got me to do the shopping for them. For Joanne's Micra, the 211 air filter, spark plugs for the Metro, oil filter for the Peugeot. Changing the oil could get a bit messy. We'll need some of these. Okay, I think that'll do it.
Those overalls are on, ready for the first task. Anything could happen now, so on hand, we've got 40 years of experience embodied in Andrew Antonoapes. He'll help our three nurses if they have any problems. And first, they're changing the air filters.
At least it does as it's told. Patience don't.
Adele, you seem to have reverted to some help from Andrew. What's been the problem?
I'd undone the clips like the book had said, but I didn't realise that you needed to loosen these as well.
Unfortunately, this is the most difficult curve of the three. Yeah.
Joanne?
Yeah?
How are you getting on with this air filter?
Fine, done it. That was
You've
quite
done
easy.
it?
Yeah, that
Already?
was quite easy, that one.
Was it?
Yeah, definitely.
How surprised are you?
Quite surprised. I thought it would be a lot harder, but no problem.
Well, you've saved yourself a few pounds already.
Definitely.
Adele's already moved on to changing the spark plugs, but it's not quite as easy as she thought.
How are you doing, Adele? How are you up to now?
Okay, nearly done.
Nearly done.
Yeah, last one going in now.
Is the last one? Before you put them in, have you checked the gap between the electrodes?
No. Put
So,
them all in now.
yeah, I'm afraid you have to take them out so we can check the gap between the plugs.
Right, okay.
Sue, can I help?
Yeah, I'm just looking for a spark plug spanner.
Yeah, that's the top of it. And then that goes on there.
Right.
And this goes on there. Like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Let's check the size. What have you done to your hands?
Oh, I've cut it. Put it there and there. Bleeding to death.
Oh, nurse!
It's important to always wear barrier cream or gloves when working on an engine, and it helps to know a few tricks of the trade.
I've managed to get 2 of them off, but the other 2 seem to be definitely stuck.
Right, there's a little tip for you there. Because of the heat, they get stuck. So you shake and work. Give them a good shake.
Right.
It's the other one.
So that's just brute strength, really.
That's what it is.
Adele's got those spark plugs in again, but where does Susan reconnect the leads?
Well, one good tip here, Susan, is you should number them all the time. You should put numbers 1, 2, 3. When you put them back, you know that they're going back the same way.
They've all done very well so far, but now we're going to cheat a little. They have to change the oil, so we're allowing them to use the ramps.
Well, at home you have to use small ramps to enable you to raise the car slightly higher, to enable you to get underneath the car.
And what would we collect the oil in?
You need one of these, at home, in order to drain the oil there, and when you finish with it, you can seal it and take it to dispose it properly.
A call to your town hall will tell you where your local disposal centre is. It seems it is possible to service your car just by following the manual, but it helps to have someone strong around, and if you're trying it for the first time, someone who knows what they're doing. What did our novices make of it?
I'm quite confident now. I'd like to have another go.
I didn't even know how to open the bonnet before today.
Have a go. It's not as hard as it looks.
I just can't believe I've done it.
I want to change my occupation. I'll be a mechanic instead.
Out of the darkness, the Silver Dawn, courtesy of Rolls Royce, followed closely by the Brooklands from Bently. New 3 years ago, they would have cost you over £100,000. Thanks to depreciation, though, today an A1 condition model would be around half that price. Is under £50,000 for the ultimate luxury a true bargain? Nikki and I drove both to find out.
In case you're a viewer from Mars, I should say that Rolls-Royce and Bentley are English icons that the rest of the luxury car world tries to emulate. They're both made in the same Cheshire factory, but are surprisingly different.
Think of it like this. My Bentley may be big, but really it's a sports car.
My Rolls-Royce is longer, by 4.9 inches actually, and it's built to impress the Queen, literally. As Her Majesty is known not to be partial to a quick ride, the emphasis here is on luxury and that bit of extra legroom in the back. And of course it's also known as a roller and associated with showbiz types.
Right, what's the Bentley like to drive? Answer, surprisingly nice. It may be over 17 feet long, but once you're rolling, it seems to shrink in size. The power steering and slim wheel make it easy to manoeuvre, and the smart auto box is slick. 60 happens in under 8 seconds. Not hard when you've got 300 brake horsepower on tap. My only dislike? The brakes have a short travel and they feel rather dead.
I'm dead by comparison in the Silver Dawn. This has the same basic engine as the Bentley, but no turbo. It's normally aspirated. The result, well, it's quite quick, but the kickdown is lazy, so the acceleration gives you plenty of time to wave to your fans as they overtake you. But fair dues, it's the legendary luxury ride that's most important. And forget all those old stories about hearing the clock tick, unless of course the clocks of yesteryear were really loud. Up there you can hear it's a V8, and inside the leather creaks reassuringly as you go over the bumps. Yes, it's very relaxed motoring.
What else do you get for your money? Let's put this pair to rest and take a closer look.
I honestly think the Rolls looks better than the Bentley. The grille, mounted by the Spirit of Ecstasy, merges with the bonnet lines and gives the car real character.
Well, I disagree. The Bentley badge is beautiful. Atop the all-important front of the Brooklands, it says, built for the British Bulldog.
But viewed from every other angle, both cars just seem dull.
Whatever happened to the flowing lines of older models? That aside though, walk past this beautiful paint job and step into interior design. Burr walnut veneer with straight-grained walnut crossbanding and boxwood inlay. Under different circumstances, a period piece from Going for a Song. There's no doubt about it. The combination of wood, leather and chrome is superb. Rover and Jaguar might as well give up now. They'll never match this on their tight budgets.
There's something rather eccentric about the switchgear in both of these cars. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it refuses to follow the pattern of ordinary cars. A couple of my favourite features, the oil level check, which you can do without moving from your seat, and the daintiest of column gear changes. The funniest thing is down here. Coffee cup holders, but for front seaters only. Presumably, those in the back seat have to make do with a set of decanters.
Not that much room in the back, but terrific seats, a commanding view and the... Oh. Picnic, Oulton Park. OK, see you there.
Sometimes this job's a pleasure, although with a car this good, you still have to bow when you open the boot.
Give us a go, Gov.
Oh, trouble.
Think so.
Coming up in part 2...
The chauffeur from hell.
Well, not the first car that springs to mind to take onto a track, but what do you think?
Well, it's certainly not a car that's used to being driven to the limit. I don't think it normally gets outside the comfort zone. My initial impressions is it feels as about involving to drive as my son's train set. I think the nearest you get to a sweat in this car is when you found out whether your chairs went up or down. The real difference between this and a race car is that I feel about a mile away from the tarmac. Obviously in the race car you feel every bump and undulation in the track, but in this car you feel absolutely nothing.
Well, I must say it's very comfortable in the back, a little seasick perhaps.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I probably spilt your gin and tonic, haven't I, the way I've been driving it, or trying to drive it.
What's your first impression about the difference between this and the Roller?
Well, I think the RR of Rolls Royce stands for really relaxed, and this is the B of Bentley, is a bit sportier. At least there's a rev counter on the Bentley, which is more than I can say for the Rolls Royce, and I can see what the engine's doing. Although my mind's a bit blown away by the fact that at 70 miles an hour I'm only doing 1800 revs.
So how's it compare with and without traction control?
Well, let's try, Nikki. This is a nice slow corner coming up, and let's give it a bit of a boot and see what happens. Wow, I like that. That car's got quite good poise. I'm really impressed, really impressed. So here we go again, this time the same corner with traction control. Well, that's amazing. Boring, but amazingly effective. It's also helped by the automatic ride control that keeps the car well balanced through a corner. I think I prefer it with the traction control off, as it's certainly a lot more fun. Maybe not so good for you, Nikki, in the back.
Oh, but I trust you will with my life.
Foolish girl.
Once a year, the good citizens of Beverly Hills clean out their garages and drive everything they have in the back down to Beverly Hills High School for the charity car show. It could be anything from this $300,000 Tucker, one of 50 ever made, to a car like this, a priceless 1930s Duesenberg, driven by William Boyd 60 years ago right here in Beverly Hills. He was the actor who played the cowboy Hopalong Cassidy. Tell us about the car you're showing today.
This is a 37 Ford, and it's been chopped, lowered. It's got a big engine in it. It's a 350, bored out to about 365. So it's develops about 500 horsepower,
yeah.
And it's pretty quick.
Now you drive your cars, you don't just leave them in the garage.
No, well, I don't drive the Ferraris as much anymore. Those stay in the garage. And I drive the hot rods a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I drive all the time. I try to find people I can race on the street with, and then I can always get a ticket.
Now look at this ground clearance on this 1951 Studebaker. Can you imagine driving this over those Pennine Hill roads? Studebaker is very smooth, very contemporary looking, even for a 1951 car. And the new trend in American hot rodding is a mixture of the old and the new, as you can see by using the old dashboard and speedometer and the new switchgear.
This car here is kind of reminiscent of the genesis of hot rodding in 1939. And what we have here is the 40s kind of configuration, ready to go for the Mexican road race. And what made it special was the Bulldog front end, which basically they took the chassis and they Z'd it around the front axle using a stock front axle. And then the Duval windshield, which is kind of reminiscent of a motorboat of the 30s and 40s. And running the exhaust through the frame, through the chassis, so that it wouldn't get tangled in any obstacles in the road running through Mexico.
If it were 40 years ago and it were Beverly Hills and I was a movie star, I might be driving one of these, a dual Ghia. Handcrafted in Italy, 440 Chrysler V8. They made 117 of them, 40 remain. This one was owned by Ava Gardner.
It's roughly weighs 3,000 pounds wet with me in it. It's front-wheel drive. It's a small block Chevrolet engine. Puts out about roughly 825 horsepower.
And how does it manage to produce that much power?
Well, we supercharge it with a Vortex supercharger, and we've been 300 miles an hour.
How do you compare this show to others?
Oh, this is the family sort of show. This is Beverly Hills and it's ambiance. I'm here because it's close to home.
Tell us about the Packard you're showing here today.
I've had it about 12 years now, and I've driven it across the country to New York, and it goes like the wind. Run rings around any Silver Ghost.
Well, we've run into all sorts of celebrities and stars known all over the world at the Beverly Hills Auto Show. But imagine we ran into someone from Lancaster or something from Lancaster. It's a 1949 Rolls Royce that was owned by a doctor in Lancaster. It moved to Los Angeles many years ago, has been in many, many movies, including Hook with Robin Williams that came out a couple of years ago. From Lancaster to Beverly Hills.
Mallary Park Racing Circuit in Leicestershire. It's round one of the Slick 50 Road Saloon Championship, the racing championship for ordinary road-going cars. All entrants have to drive to the event in the cars they're going to race. Michael Wright from Gatley, Cheshire is competing in his W-Reg Golf GTI.
This is a road-going saloon. I use my car every day. I tow the caravan with it and then come here and race.
What sort of money are we talking about?
To prepare the car, well, I've spent about £800, and that includes overalls, helmets, and preparing the car itself for this, what I do this season.
And what will the season cost?
Probably about another £1,000 for entry fees and maybe a set of tyres.
Practice for Class B cars with engines up to 1800cc. Some drivers reckon to get 3 seasons of racing out of a set of tyres. Others obviously won't. Even practice can be a hairy experience as competitors try to set a fast lap to get a good grid position. Michael in car 99 usually performs well, but wasn't as quick in practice as his wife and team manager Marjorie had expected. Colin Stothart from Rossendale was out in his green MG Maestro for summer questionable colour and car.
Yeah, everybody has a bit of a downer on Maestros, and They're not as bad as what people make out to be, but what we did, we came middle of the season last year, we started going round to the circuits to see what class I'd like to enter in, and we came across the Slick 50 class. So hence, the car that won the championship last year was an MG Maestro. So halfway through, I decided to pick an MG Maestro, plus the cheap to buy. The more competitive you wish to be, the more money it costs you. But if you want to be there just to enjoy yourself and compete, you can just do it very cheaply.
In a works Peugeot 309, Daley Thompson, double Olympic gold medalist, was working towards his full racing licence.
Racing, I've tried a couple of times and it's quite enjoyable because I've been retired sort of 8 or 9 months now, and I found that real life's really boring. And I just needed a bit more reason to kind of get up in the mornings, and it's exciting sort of being in in with 25 other cars, and also I enjoy the acquisition of the skills, because you need to have the car in the right place and do braking and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, it's all good fun.
2 o'clock, and time to put an end to those final tweaks and get out on the track for the Class B race. Michael started 11th on the grid, Colin 6th. At an average speed of 80 miles an hour and in a car that had previously won the championship, Michael started confidently. In car with Michael Wright, approaching the hairpin, the section of the course that sorts racing drivers from Sunday drivers. With late braking the key to his success, Colin was taking no prisoners as he fought his way through the field. Michael had got into a battle royal with an XR2, sticking to the racing line all important.
We had a pretty poor practice, which put us on the back of the grid, but we managed to sort out the misfiring problems, and come the race, we managed to pick up an extra couple of seconds. So I managed to get past about 5 or 6 cars.
And was it as everything you expected?
Everything and more. Yeah, it's you can't beat it.
The day's excitement over, old hands Michael and Marjorie hitch up the team trailer and head home. They won't need it for September's event at Oulton Park. After all, from Gatley they can drive there and back in the day in their very own racing car.